Welcome to Quest for Quest. I'm your host, Adam. In this series I'll be reviewing each and every episode of the real adventures of Jonny Quest, in search of the best one. In my personal opinion, the series worked best when it combined a solid mystery for the brains, and emotional thrills for the heart. So when giving a score, I'll be primarily taking these two factors into account. A disclaimer. This show is almost 30 years old. If you're watching this video, you probably have seen it before. If not, do watch it, because it's worth your time. Then come back because I will be discussing the series with spoilers. Let's start obviously with the first episode of the first season, entitled The Darkest Fathoms. It was released on August 26, 1996, when I was almost 10. I don't think I watched the premiere, but I do remember this episode very well. In fact, it has never left my memory. Probably because it's pirate-themed, and back then I was obsessed with pirates, thanks to the brilliance of another animated show, The Pirates of Dark Water, which aired in 1991. Once my dad even made me a saber using plexiglass, which I then took to school. But that's a story for a different time. Let's discuss the plot. The episode starts unusually, because it begins with a flashback to Bermuda in the 1700s. We see a cannon fight between a ship, the Ivory Web, and a British naval ship. The pirate Black Jack Lee and his crew are losing. As he goes down with the Ivory Web, Lee proclaims,
"In life or death, no one shall have what is Black Jack Lee's."
Then we flash forward to present-day Bermuda. An exploratory oil diving ship is conducting an expedition with two divers combing the seafloor. The divers find the wreck of the Ivory Web, as a thick fog rolls over their ship. A pirate vessel emerges with Black Jack Lee commanding it. The oil ship is quickly boarded, and a technician accidentally turns off the hot water to the divers after being assaulted. Captain Lacey struggles to pull him up, but Black Jack Lee smashes his sword into the device, dooming them to a death below. This death is not spectacular in its presentation, so I didn't include it in my ranking of cartoon death scenes, but it is truly horrible when you think about it. Did they freeze to death? Did they suffocate? Either way, it's a horrific demise. Anyway, days later Captain Lacey visits Dr. Benton Quest to discuss the mysterious incident. Quest pulls a file from British naval records, showing that one John Milton Lee was a British privateer born into an aristocratic family, who became cruel and ruthless on the seas. Quest doubts that an actual ghost attacked the boat, but notes that the wreck would be a historic find, and agrees to explore. Dr. Quest finds Jonny and Haji practicing yoga atop the lighthouse, and asks them to come along. They take the Quester catamaran to the site, and with Race Bannon, Haji, and Jonny aboard, the sea slug begins descending to the seafloor, while Dr. Quest and Jesse Bannon control it from above. Jonny, Race, and Haji find the wreck perched precariously near a canyon. As they enter the ruins, fog suddenly rolls in, and the Quester comes under attack. Dr. Quest and Jesse are abducted, and the pirates damage the Quester's computer systems. With the hot water gone, Jonny and Race make their way back to the diving bell as quickly as possible. Jonny's cord is tangled with the seafloor. Race moves in to save him, but in the process, loses a piece of debris, which knocks him out. Jonny struggles to carry Race back, and almost dies in the process, but in the end they manage to return to the surface. Back on the Quester, the team cannot find Benton or Jesse, and Jonny decides to take the Quester's whaler to a nearby weather station for help. He hits a reef while sailing, and the engine dies. Expecting rescue from an oncoming ship, he bails after seeing pirates fast approaching. He feigns helplessness while standing on a reef, and lures the pirate motorboat into hitting the rock, and erupting in flames, most likely killing everyone on board. Jonny swims to a small island nearby, and turns around after making landfall, to see Black Jack Lee, who knocks him unconscious. He awakes in the hold of a ship and, remembering Haji's yoga lesson from earlier, slips out of his ropes. He eavesdrops on several men in conference, who declare that they will use Dr. Quest and his seacraft to remove the treasure, then eliminate him and the rest of his team. Jonny slips through corridors to find Jesse and Dr. Quest, and the three go to the bridge to locate the fog machinery and other ship controls. Dr. Quest activates the theatrical devices, and then chops through a moon pool to flood the ship. The Blackjack Lee imposter arrives and challenges Dr. Quest, who tells Jonny and Jesse to flee. Benton breaks away from the fight, but the imposter is close behind with the axe. The crew begins to abandon ship. The vessel sinks beneath the sea in a fireball, killing who knows how many people. The next day, Dr. Quest and the team try again to visit the wreck, with Jonny and Jesse leading. As they approach, the ship slips off the edge of the gorge, and falls to the murky depths of the ocean. Jonny spots the figure of the actual Blackjack Lee, still hanging on to the crow's nest, with an axe triumphantly in hand. Once again his treasure sinks away before anyone else can take it.
In life or death, no one shall have what is Blackjack Lee's.
Okay, let's not beat around the bush. I will state it right from the get-go. This is a fantastic opener. If you want to check what this show is about, you can easily start with this episode, because it's emblematic of the whole series. I'm probably overthinking this, but I see this episode as a twist and commentary on Scooby-Doo. Sure, the original Jonny Quest cartoon is several years older than Scooby-Doo Where Are You?, but by the mid-1990s, Scooby has already been well established as a staple of pop culture. Meanwhile, Jonny Quest could never match Scooby in terms of popularity and recognizability. Commenting on a much bigger and somewhat similar franchise doesn't seem unlikely to me. Anyway, the Darkest Fathoms is filled with Scooby-Doo tropes. I mean, the episode features villains using costumes and theatricals to impersonate ghost pirates, in order to retrieve a sunken treasure. That's as Scooby-Doo as it gets. However, throughout the episode no member of Team Quest ever believes for once that they might be dealing with actual ghosts. Dr. Quest states that right away.
I doubt it was Blackjack's ghost who attacked the oil endeavor.
So all the piratey shenanigans are on the screen for us, the viewers, not the characters in the show. Until the end, when the twist comes that the ghost of Blackjack Lee is real, but he wasn't the focus of the episode. Meanwhile, the fake pirates who were indeed the focus, die anonymously. There's no unmasking of the old man Wickles, explaining his scheme, and arresting him. That's a reverse Scooby-Doo. So if you were expecting the real adventures to be another Hanna-Barbera cartoon about a gang of teenagers solving mysteries, then you will be surprised. This is the statement I get from this episode. Also, speaking of a mystery-solving gang, I really like how Team Quest is portrayed here as a well-oiled machine. Every member is important and brings something unique to the table. In a modern cartoon, you would expect the adults, Dr. Quest and Race, to be incompetent morons in need of being constantly saved by their kids. But here they aren't the show's focus, of course, but they can take care of themselves. Even Dr. Quest, who isn't really the team's muscles, can be useful in a face-to-face confrontation with a corsair. I also like how Jonny, the show's titular character, isn't overpowered. He gets tangled underwater and needs help from Race, but then he saves him when he gets knocked out. He hits a reef, spoiling his best chance to reach the land. But then he tricks a boat filled with angry pirates. He gets kidnapped. But then he escapes, using what he had learned from Haji. All of this constitutes a well-balanced character. He makes mistakes, he can take a punch, but then he gets up and fights back. This review is already getting long, so I will discuss other characters later. Let's say this was mostly a Jonny episode anyway. Race was unconscious, Dr. Quest and Jesse were kidnapped, and Haji played more of a passive role this time. How would I rank the Darkest Fathoms? As much as I like the pirate theme, I have to admit that there's not much of a mystery here. Sure, the flashback to the naval battle was very cool. Blackjack Lee's firm statement, that he will protect his treasure, makes sense, explaining why he would protect it from beyond the grave. Fake pirates were able to trick Captain Lacey in the episode's opening, but like I said, Team Quest wasn't convinced even for a moment that they were dealing with actual ghosts. Jonny states that firmly around the midway point.
An 18th century ghost that knows how to sabotage 20th century electronics, but is too dumb to ice this outboard?
After that, the piratey shenanigans are demoted to performance for performance's sake, leaving us for the second half of the episode with almost no questions about the nature of this whole situation. We presume it's all happening because of the sunken treasure, so the only thing we don't know is why pirates didn't kill Dr. Quest right away. To be fair, the Blackjack Lee impersonator's plan wasn't stupid. The pirates needed the expertise of Dr. Quest and his highly advanced seacraft to retrieve the treasure, so kidnapping him made sense. What didn't make sense was destroying Captain Lavi's exploratory oil diving ship in the episode's opening. They could have used him and his equipment instead. Still, I would give the mystery 3 points out of 5. There's a good backstory to it, the pirates look convincing, but perhaps the intrigue is dispatched a bit too early. However, when it comes to thrills, I give the episode 5 points out of 5. It's a hell of a rollercoaster ride. The opening naval battle is such a delight to watch. I really like the confrontation between Dr. Quest and the Blackjack Lee impersonator. You can feel every hit. The death toll in this is extremely high. We don't see any bodies, but it has to be one of the bloodiest episodes of the real adventures. I also find myself responding really strongly to the underwater scenes, of which there are many. But maybe it's just me because I did go scuba diving once in Australia, so I know firsthand what a scary experience it is. Still, I think the Darkest Fathoms will give you an adrenaline rush. So in the end, my rating is 4 Qs out of 5. This is a strong start to a great series. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. Do you remember watching The Darkest Fathoms? What did you think about the episode? Please leave a comment, consider liking the video, and subscribing to the channel. And join me for another Quest for Quest. Until next time. Bye.